After the female lead transferred to the school, Asher was gradually attracted to her. He indulged her in tearing my dance dress and casually gave her the wrist guard that I had obtained by traveling halfway across the globe. What's more, he threw a basketball at me for her. She liked it. So I gave it to her. Aurora, do you have a problem with that? Later, when we graduated, I secretly changed my college application. At that moment, he looked as panicked as an abandoned child, but I just smiled and gently pried his hand off mine. Go back to her. Your future doesn't have me in it. She's late again. When Luna came in, today's rehearsal was already halfway through. As soon as she entered, the rehearsal was forced to stop, and the faces of all the sweaty people turned sour. My desk mate, who was standing closest to me, was the first to complain. I was used to this. Counting today. Since Luna was arranged by the teacher to join the dance drama halfway through, she has been late 5 times. And today is the 6th major rehearsal. The other classmates, whose rehearsals had been interrupted time and time again, were already seething with anger and looked at me one after another. As the chief planner and lead dancer of the dance drama dedicated to the 100th anniversary of the school's founding, everyone was waiting for my attitude. I didn't blame her this time either. I pointed to her position in the corner. Change into your costume and come over to rehearse. But Luna bit her lower lip and stood there, hugging her pink school bag. She looked like a wronged person who had been humiliated. She stared at me for quite a while before reluctantly going backstage with her dance costume. After she left, my desk mate came up to me, looking very displeased. Aurora, she's been late 5 times in a row. Aren't you angry? I stretched my limbs and replied casually. She's a top-notch student. Why should I get angry with her? My desk mate snorted. I just can't stand her weak-looking act. She's so fake, as if we're all bullying her. She even has to hold her school bag when changing her dance clothes. Everyone knows she's late because she's tutoring Asher. What's most annoying is that she's actually trying to steal Asher from you. Everyone in the school knows that you and Asher are the ones who runs who. At this point, she suddenly stopped talking and secretly glanced at my expression. Seeing that I looked normal, she let out a sigh of relief. That Asher and I are childhood sweethearts? I took over her words with a smile. She mumbled in agreement. I looked up at the tightly closed door of the theater. There was no one there. Since Luna appeared, he hadn't waited for me to finish rehearsing anymore. Childhood sweethearts don't always end up together. If she wants to steal him, let her. Because she will succeed. There's no point in fighting for something that's destined to be lost. Luna dawdled and changed her clothes. When she came out, she was still holding that pink school bag. I pretended not to notice. Luna, perform your part alone. In an instant, the surroundings fell silent. The classmates who were taking a break from rehearsal turned their heads to look at her, grinning with schadenfreude. Everyone's eyes were focused on Luna. She clutched the school bag tightly, and her eyes turned red. Before long, a teardrop hung on the corner of her eye, ready to fall but not falling. My desk mate, who loved to stir up trouble, came up to her and made a big fuss. Alas, top-notch student, why are you crying? Since you've been late so many times, you should have practiced well, right? Can't you perform it for us alone? Or, did you deliberately come late? Her voice suddenly grew louder. Luna was startled, quickly glanced at me, and shook her head, refuting in a low voice. I didn't. Her eyelashes fluttered slightly, and that teardrop fell. She looked so pitiful. I'll dance then. With that, she put down her school bag and started dancing her part. Since she was arranged to join the dance drama at the last minute and had no dance foundation, Luna's dance part was very small. Although small, it was wonderful. And she was the only group dancer with a solo part. But how did she dance? Her movements were uncoordinated, and her body was stiff. She didn't even manage to remember all the basic movements. After a few minutes, she let out a sob, covered her face, hugged her knees, and squatted down, crying softly. She couldn't continue dancing. This is really bad. How can she have the nerve to be late again and again with such a performance? If she doesn't want to come, she should just say so. She even squeezed out the spot of another classmate. Everyone gathered around, looking down at this top-notch student. Top-notch students shouldn't really exist in Mingdi Private Middle School. But she's the female lead. She can easily steal Asher from me. With just a word of wanting to integrate into group life. The teacher eagerly gave her the solo group performance role. Luna. My cold voice echoed in the theater. Can you be more serious? I didn't care at all whether she was late or not. But she couldn't treat the work I had painstakingly created with such an attitude. This commemorative dance drama was very important to everyone in our team. If performed well, it would be a stepping stone to the top performing arts colleges. As the chief planner and lead dancer, I had to lead the team to perform well. Looking at the person squatting on the ground and sobbing continuously, I took a deep breath, held back my anger, and reached out my hand to her. Get up. I'll dance with you. But Luna slapped my hand away. She stood up and angrily tugged at her dance dress. I won't dance anymore. The exquisitely tailored hem of the dance dress was torn to pieces in an instant. Luna picked up her pink school bag and stood there alone. Tears falling down pat. You rich people don't treat us ordinary people like human beings at all. I was so angry that I laughed. It was clearly she who was late. Clearly she who was eager to participate in the dance drama didn't practice well. Yet she became the one who was wronged? I bent down to pick up the torn pieces of the dance dress and looked at her coldly. Luna. Do you know that all the dance dresses were designed by a well-known designer and invited? The design fee for this one you tore up is over 20,000 yuan. You can choose not to dance well. But why did you have to destroy it? Luna was left speechless by my questions. She stood there, holding her school bag. Without saying a word, I suddenly lost interest and just wanted her to return the dance dress to me as soon as possible. But I didn't expect that as soon as I got close to her, she fell backwards, landed on the ground, and her school bag also dropped. The things in the school bag spilled all over the floor. Although Luna quickly cleaned them up, I still saw the wrist guard I gave to Asher. It was a signed edition wrist guard that I had spent an entire vacation traveling halfway across the globe to get. I held the small wrist guard and sternly questioned. Where did you get this? I gave it to her. A cold and deep voice suddenly came from the door. Immediately after, a basketball flew towards me, narrowly brushing past my ear and landing in the middle of the crowd. The crowd fell silent. Asher, against the light, with his thin lips slightly pursed and his face cold, walked towards us step by step. He snatched the wrist guard from my hand, carefully put it on for Luna, and then tidied up her school bag. After finishing these actions, he turned his head to look at me, his black pupils showing no emotion. She liked it. So I gave it to her. Aurora, do you have a problem with that? No. I lowered my head, hiding the turmoil in my eyes. Right in front of me, Asher was already protecting Luna behind him in such an uncompromising manner. Not to mention when I wasn't around. Whether I admitted it or not, reality was really developing as in my dream. Asher was truly deeply attracted to her. Perhaps my reaction was too calm. So Asher furrowed his beautiful brows. Finally, heading so filled by a sigh. There was a bit of emotion in those black eyes. The moment our eyes met, my heart ached slightly. After a moment, a cold and glamorous smile slowly bloomed on my lips. This him, instead, made me calm down. As if the person who had been fierce just now wasn't me. Since I gave it to you, you can do whatever you want with it. I said this inferiorly. As if this wasn't a precious item that had cost me time and a large amount of money. Since he didn't care, why should I hold on to a small wrist guard? No matter how precious something is, if it's not cherished, it's worthless. It's just a pity that I won't get to see him wearing this wrist guard in the league. Asher stared at me intently, his eyebrows and eyes gradually drooping. Is that so? He said it with difficulty. I didn't look at him anymore and turned my gaze to the classmates waiting aside. Let's do it again. Then we'll end today. At this call to gather, everyone woke up as if from a dream, tidied their clothes, and stood at their respective positions. They also all deliberately avoided Asher and Luna, who was still standing there wiping her tears. Let's start. I nodded to the classmate who was in charge of playing the music. Luna hesitated for a moment, After seeing that Asher's eyes were always on me, she finally gritted her teeth and followed. Wearing the torn dance dress, she kept tripping. Soon her knees turned red. Asher frowned. After seeing her trip and get up again, he finally couldn't help but interrupt the rehearsal. He stepped forward and pulled Luna behind him, asking me with a sullen face, "Aurora, stop bullying her. Come on. Let's do this part again." I panted slightly, ignored him, and signaled to the classmate playing the music. "Aurora, is it that difficult to admit that you're bullying her and treating her differently?" Asher's persistent voice came from behind, hitting my heart word by word. I stopped and turned my back to him. My vision was already a bit blurry, but I still stubbornly raised my head, not allowing the tears to fall. "Asher, whether I bullied her or not, she knows best. Why don't you ask her?" Out of the corner of my eye, Luna, wearing the tattered dance dress, was tugging at Asher's clothes, still looking pitiful. "You say you didn't bully her, but you don't even give her a good dance dress?" "Yes, I bullied her. I didn't give her a complete dance dress. I deliberately gave her ragged clothes to make her look bad." "Asher, are you satisfied?" I said these words with all my strength. Finally, heading till Feldley, the tears flowed down my cheeks. "That's not what I meant. It's not. Aurora, are you jealous?" Before the word jealous was fully out of his mouth, Asher saw the tears on my face. He was stunned. "No. Aurora, why are you crying?" I don't blame him for being shocked. We had been childhood sweethearts for 15 years. And this was the second time I had cried in front of him. The first time was when he got beaten up for me. I looked at his panicked black eyes and said softly and slowly, "Asher, this is the first time I've thought you were annoying." I looked at his panicked black eyes and said softly and slowly, "Asher, this is the first time I've thought you were annoying. Asher and I have been childhood sweethearts, knowing each other since we were kids. The Aurora family and the Asher family are business partners and have a very good relationship. Asher has been calm and steady since childhood. He has excellent grades and is handsome. He is the focus wherever he goes. Although I dance now, I used to be a little troublemaker. Asher has been following me around since childhood, cleaning up my messes. He is a favored son of heaven. He never caused trouble himself, but time and time again, after I got into trouble, he took the blame on himself. I remember one time, in order to help me avoid trouble, his mother beat his bottom until it was all bruised. No matter how severely my father beat me before, I never shed a single tear. But this time, when Asher took the beating for me, I couldn't stop crying. When I went to see him, sobbing, he was lying on the bed, unable to move, yet he still fumbled to comfort me, not allowing me to cry. "Aurora, what are you crying for? You should be happy for me. Look, I can skip school for 3 days." As he spoke, he even turned his face with a band-aid on it to give me a big smile. I knew very well that no matter how hard Asher's mother beat him, it was still 1,000 times better than my father. My father was a soldier when he was young, but he unfortunately retired due to an injury during a mission. His greatest regret in life was that I wasn't a boy, so I couldn't join the army. But he was still very strict with me. The stricter he was, the more rebellious I became. I've been beaten with sticks quite a few times, often with bruises all over my body. Asher happened to see my bruises once. From then on, he took responsibility for all the trouble I caused. After that day, I once asked him, "Asher, will you always be good to me?" Asher put down his pen and seriously promised me, "Asher will always be good to Aurora," and he did it. Until the real female lead appeared. The change happened overnight. I had a dream. In the dream, Asher and I remained just childhood friends. Even the world we live in is just a fictional world in a novel. Asher is the male lead. But I'm not the female lead. His female lead is someone else. The dream was like a movie, playing back all the experiences from our first encounter at the age of 3 until we were about to take the college entrance examination. The turning point came during the winter vacation of our senior year in high school. On this day, having fulfilled lad Asher, Asher and I had just celebrated our 18th birthdays, when a huge change occurred in his family. Asher's father failed in his investment, owed a huge debt, and couldn't bear the blow. So he committed suicide by jumping off a building. Asher's mother couldn't accept it for a while and had a heart attack, passing away. Overnight, Asher lost both of his parents. He locked himself in the house for a whole day. When he reappeared, he was like a different person. He became more taciturn. Although he treated me as before, he no longer mentioned that we would apply to the same university. What's more, without my knowledge, he applied to be a basketball special recruited student, participated in competitions frequently, and won bonuses to pay off the debts. He became busy and exhausted. That's when the real female lead, Luna, appeared. In the dream, Asher was gradually attracted to her and finally got together with her. It was Luna who accompanied him from a down and out state to the peak, and I was just a passing traveler in his life. I would be hated by Asher because of competing with Luna, fail the college entrance examination, and never recover. In the future, the Aurora family's business would also be targeted by Luna and Asher and eventually go bankrupt. At first, I thought this dream was extremely absurd. However, one thing after another in the dream started to happen. Asher lost his parents, and Luna transferred to our school. Everything was moving towards the predetermined ending. I had to believe it and accept it. Rather than watching my boy change his heart right in front of me, it would be better for me to withdraw voluntarily. Cutting losses in time, isn't it? I didn't want to fail the college entrance examination. Nor did I want my parents' self-made business to go bankrupt because of me. It would be too painful. So I didn't conflict with Luna, for fear that my boy would side with her. I also wanted to see a bigger stage. After that day, Luna's role was replaced. When she came out of the office with red eyes, I happened to pass by. She stopped me and stared at me hatefully. Aurora, don't be complacent. Asher will be mine sooner or later. It's better not to dance. Dancing is just fooling around. Now I can focus on tutoring Asher with peace of mind. I glanced at her inferiorly and said, "Oh." Maybe my reaction was too calm. Luna gritted her teeth, then suddenly giggled, with a look of pity on her face. How does it feel to be not chosen? She leaned closer to me and whispered in my ear. This is just the beginning. I was inexplicably taunted for doing nothing. Not fighting back isn't my style. I tilted my head slightly and smiled innocently. Luna, have you mended my dance dress? Sure enough, she changed back to a resentful expression. You rich people are so stingy. It's just a dance dress. Do you really have to ask me for it again and again? I sneered. Yeah. It's just a dance dress worth 100,000 and yuan in total. It's just your family's annual income. You. Luna stomped her foot and ran away. I don't know if she was angry or humiliated. I watched her angry figure disappear around the corner. My fist clenched and then relaxed. It seems that Luna knows everything. Does this prove from the side that that absurd dream is real? The cheers on the basketball court interrupted my thoughts. I looked downstairs and immediately recognized Asher's figure among the people training and playing basketball. Just now, Asher made a beautiful three-point shot. Everyone cheered for him. Luna was even holding a pink water bottle, clapping so hard that her hands turned red. But there was no joy on Asher's face. He looked indifferent, and the air pressure around him was a bit low. Until he suddenly looked up and met my gaze from afar. The moment our eyes met, an indescribable soreness welled up in my heart, and there was also a trace of a secret throbbing. Suddenly, something flashed through my mind. It was too fast for me to catch. I thought that Asher has been smart since childhood. He learns everything quickly. He's only been playing basketball for 3 months and can play so well. Talent alone isn't enough. In order to play in the games and earn bonuses to pay off the debts. During those nights when I was practicing dancing, he must have been training, right? Why should I be entangled about Luna's appearance? There were girls around Asher before. And I never cared. Is it because of the ending in the dream? No. I was wrong. I was narrow-minded. Bound by that damn ending in the dream. Even though several things in the dream have happened. it doesn't mean that everything will happen. Why don't I try to change it? Maybe fate doesn't favor me. But if I don't fight for it, I and he will really miss each other. Now, at this moment, I only have one thought. To run to his side. To run towards my boy. To take a gamble with fate. After my figure disappeared, Asher visibly became disappointed. He smiled self-deprecatingly and came down from the court. Luna quickly got up and went forward, handing him the pink water bottle in her hand. Asher, I made lemonade for you specially to replenish electrolytes. Asher frowned but still didn't take it. I'll just drink mineral water. Luna pouted and was persistent, directly stuffing the water bottle into Asher's arms. The boys training together started to make a commotion. Asher. This is the girl's goodwill. Drink it quickly. Yeah, adin fosil my sashim. We don't even have this to drink. Asher was silent for a while. Then still shook his head and refused her. I don't drink it. He doesn't drink it. Almost at the same time, he and I spoke. Asher turned around in shock, his face beaming with surprise. Aurora? I replied with a smile. It's me. I took the water bottle from his hand, walked up to Luna, and returned it to her. Luna, Asher is allergic to lemons and can't drink lemonade. Luna's face turned bright red. She twitched the corners of her mouth and stammered. Is that so? Yeah. I thought Asher would have told you. Asher is allergic to lemons. He didn't tell Luna. Only I know this. This realization makes me a little excited. Since I showed up, Asher's eyes haven't left me. I thought you would hate me forever. I looked at his eyes, which curved like crescents, and couldn't help laughing. How could I bear to do that? Besides, if I didn't come, you would be. I hinted at something, and Asher understood immediately. He laughed, rubbed my head, and said, It's so good. Fortunately, hadn't fulfilled my ad say. You don't hate me. Fortunately, hadn't fulfilled my ad sashund. I figured it out. Asher, there will be a school anniversary performance in 3 days. Will you come? This performance is the most important thing for me, before the college entrance examination. It's related to whether I can get into that university. Asher flicked my nose and smiled brightly. You silly girl. How could I be absent? We sat side by side in the last row of the auditorium for a long time. Asher told me a lot of things that I didn't know during this period. Some were about himself, and some were about Luna. He said, after my parents died, I didn't want to live for a while. I missed so many of your rehearsals. Besides the fact that I was training. More importantly, he clenched his fist and hit himself hard. More importantly, I ran into people who came to collect debts. Aurora, our two families' lives so close. What if those people found out about you? I can't even imagine the consequences. As for Luna. He paused, then looked up and glanced at the person not far away who didn't want to leave. I don't like her. Even. I loathe her appearance. Hearing this, my throat was choked with sobs. Why? Asher buried his head in his arms in pain, his voice muffled and dull. Because I can feel that her appearance will push you further and further away from me. Sometimes I really can't help myself. There are many things I don't want to say. But for some reasons, I have to. Just like that wrist guard. I could only watch helplessly as Luna took it away. I knew you would be very sad because of it. But if I didn't agree, something that would make you even sadder would happen. That day, when you said you hated me, I finally woke up. But it was too late to regret. He sat there, his figure exuding loneliness and pain. I'm sorry. I've hurt you. His voice was hoarse. And only his dark eyes were so deep that they seemed to suck me in. I held his cold hand, trying to pass some warmth to him. There won't be a second time. Asher. You won't hurt her or a second time. He said it word by word, solemnly promising me. This was the most solemn promise this boy, who made me feel distressed, could give me at this moment. On the day of the school anniversary performance, the show was a great success. The wonderful performance of our dance troupe won thunderous applause. However, Asher didn't show up. At first. Before going on stage, I thought he had some last-minute training and missed the opening. It was a pity that he wouldn't be able to see my solo part at the beginning. After the performance ended, he still wasn't there. I couldn't help but feel a bit anxious and kept calling him. But no one answered. I started calling the classmates who trained with him. But they told me that Asher had finished training early and said he was coming to watch my performance. A huge sense of panic enveloped me. My heart grew colder and colder. Even when the dance drama won the first place in the school anniversary performance, and the enrollment teacher from the university I had been longing for kept praising me, I didn't smile much. I quickly received the award and then went to change back into my normal clothes. Just then, sorry. The phone rang suddenly. It was Asher. My hand holding the phone was trembling. A sense of joy at having something lost and found again hit me. But this joy only lasted for a short moment. In an instant, it was replaced by panic. Because the person speaking on the other end of the phone wasn't Asher, but Luna. As soon as Luna's sickly sweet voice came through, alarm bells went off in my head. She chuckled. "You're probably looking for Asher all over the place right now. Aren't you?" I held back my anger and tried my best to make my voice sound calm. "Where is Asher?" "He's by my side." "What did you do to him?" Luna laughed again. "Nothing much. He wanted to watch your performance, having fulfilled my upset, but I didn't agree. When he tried to force his way, he fainted." "Why would he faint just because you didn't agree?" Luna paused. "Well." Suddenly, that dream flashed through my mind. I thought of something and probed. "Is it because Asher is the male lead and you're the female lead?" There was complete silence on the other end of the phone for a full minute. Only then did Luna's voice, tinged with surprise and suspicion, come through. "You know quite a lot. It seems that there are more people than just me who have awake and their consciousness in this world. Then do you know that actually, Asher doesn't belong to this world?" What she said sounded absurd. But all I wanted was to see him. My mind was in a daze. Completely blank. When I rushed to the school infirmary, Luna was gently caressing Asher's eyebrows and eyes. Her face was unusually serene. What exactly happened? Luna turned her head and looked at me with extremely calm eyes. Her gaze filled with a sense of self-assurance. "Don't you understand yet?" Seeing me stunned, she smiled and continued. "We live in a novel. I'm the female lead, and Asher is the male lead. However, Asher, this male lead, isn't originally from our novel world. He transmigrated into the book. He has to follow the plot of this book to return to his own world. You, on the other hand, are just a background character. Even if you've awakened and know some inside information, you can't change the plot or the ending. If you keep pestering him, he'll only fail." Before Luna's words even finished, my body started to sway unsteadily. The smell of disinfectant in the infirmary was really pungent. But it was nothing compared to Luna's words. Combined with that dream, I had understood most of it. In order to return to his own world, Asher could only follow the original plot. According to the original plot, he and Luna were supposed to be together. And I was just a passing figure in Asher's life. I could only watch helplessly as my boy walked step by step towards the person who was truly destined for him. I could only quietly wait for fate to come and embrace my own ending. "You're doomed to lose to me." Luna whirled her long hair. Her voice stinged with pity. Then, no. I pointed at Asher, who was lying unconscious on the hospital bed, my voice trembling. "Why is Asher like this?" She was silent for a moment before speaking. "This is what makes me feel threatened." I looked up sharply. "What?" "Asher refused to follow the plot for you." She said this reluctantly. "He's known for a long time that he's the male lead of a novel. He used to follow the plot just fine. But ever since I showed up and you started to be cold to him, he's been frequently refusing to follow the original plot. Was it because of my cold attitude towards him in the past while? Due to the dreams and Luna? Did he refuse to follow the plot in order not to make me misunderstand further because he noticed the change in my attitude? Didn't Asher want to go back anymore?" My heart was in turmoil. For a moment, I felt both sweetness and a sour ache in my heart. However, Luna's next words plunged me into an abyss again. She observed my expression and said slowly, "But there's a price to pay for refusing to follow the plot. Every time he refuses, he'll be punished. At first, it was just a headache. Gradually, he'll faint from the pain. And in the end, she didn't finish. But I understood. In the end, Asher would surely die. Once he's punished to death by the plot, he definitely won't be able to go back. I suddenly understood what he had said that day. He said a lot of things were beyond his control. And it must have been the original plot. And it was the kind of plot that would hurt me. If he hadn't given the wrist guard to Luna and hadn't thrown the basketball at me, would he have defied the plot and been punished? Because this fool knew that his fainting would make me even more sad. I looked at Asher, who was still unconscious on the hospital bed. Had he really been punished by the plot to this extent? In his heart, was I really that important? Luna suddenly took off the wrist guard I gave to Asher, examined it carefully for a few seconds, and then threw it forcefully on the ground. Then, she stared at me with a hateful look, as if she wanted to bore holes through me. You think I care about this thing? You probably don't know that Asher treasures this wrist guard like a precious gem. But how could I let something of yours stay by his side? The day I was late for dancing. According to the original plot, he should have hurt you for me. He refused to follow this part of the plot so desperately that he had a splitting headache. He wouldn't have thrown the basketball at you if he hadn't been able to stand the headache. As long as he wants to return to his own world, he can only be with me. After all, I'm the female lead. Hearing this, I closed my eyes, my whole body trembling. It was despair, extreme anger, and a hatred so intense that I wanted to tear the person in front of me apart. But I was completely helpless against her. Luna stood up, walked in front of me, and pressed my hand against her face, wearing a victorious smile. Guess who Asher will side with if he wakes up and sees you hitting me? Aurora, give up. If you stay by Asher's side, he won't end well. After Asher woke up, he came looking for me many times. I refused to see him for various reasons. Every time I saw his lonely back as he turned away, my heart ached. But I couldn't let him be punished by the plot again. I couldn't bear the consequences. I wanted him to be well. Finally, heading fulfilled me. After avoiding him again, Asher never came to look for me anymore. He had his pride. And I had my helplessness. For a long time after that, I was busy reviewing my academic courses and didn't see him. My desk mate said that Asher had been competing outside and should be back before the college entrance examination. However, until the end of the college entrance examination, I still didn't see him. I didn't even know if he had taken the exam. After the college entrance examination results came out, during the stage of filling out college applications, I received a call from the admissions teacher of the university I had been longing for. The teacher said that because my dance drama was excellent, they would definitely admit me if I applied. Aurora, that boy in your school who plays basketball really well, Asher. He filled our school as his first choice. I was stunned for a long time. In the end, I still clicked the mouse a few times and skipped this university. On the evening when I received the admission notice, there was a beautiful and magnificent sunset glow. After thanking the postal worker, I turned around and walked upstairs. Just as I entered the corridor, I was suddenly grabbed by a strong force. Before I could scream, I fell into a solid embrace. It's me. It was Asher. He hugged me from behind, resting his head on my shoulder, and his short stubble rubbed against my cheek. It was a tingly, numbing feeling that made me sink. My breath hitched, and I pushed him away violently. Asher let out a muffled groan and hugged me even tighter. His jet black eyes were bloodshot, and he looked at me as if he wanted to devour me. Why did you change your college application? Why didn't you see me? Aurora, what on earth do I mean to you? 2 whys in a row, each one more vehement than the last. The last sentence, Asher almost roared out. He kicked the wall hard, and his whole body became restless and irritable. But in the end, his voice was filled with panic. Almost humble. I was just worried about you. As soon as these words fell, my heart trembled. I had seen Asher in all kinds of states in the 15 years we had been childhood sweethearts. But I had never seen him so humble. From now on, whether he was happy or sad, it would have nothing to do with me. Only if I withdrew could he lead a good life. transmigrating here to be the male lead. He had already endured so much and suffered so much. I didn't want to be a stumbling block on his way back home after following the plot. I might as well just be a background character. I curled my fingers and forced a heartless smile, saying words that were almost self-tortuous. As for the college application, I just felt like changing it. And you would have a row sigh. Asher. We're just childhood sweethearts. Aren't we? Aurora. He let out a low growl, snatched the admission notice from my hand, and saw the name of the university. It was across the entire country from his university. This isn't true. He looked as panicked as a child who had been abandoned, repeating, "This isn't true," over and over again. Before the tears could fall, I gently pried his hand off mine, smiling as I said goodbye to him. Go back to her. Your future doesn't have me in it. Your future will be bright and brilliant without me. This year's peak night was held by the seaside in Sonia. As soon as the plane landed and I was still in the nanny car, my assistant Mia urged me to do my makeup quickly. But I was lost in thought, looking at the blue sea outside the car window. A slender hand with well-defined joints waved in front of me. Then, let out a little sigh. A cup of iced Americano was handed to me. I turned my head and smiled slightly, taking it. Thank you. Sebastian chuckled softly, his temperament gentle. What are you thanking me for? I was afraid you wouldn't be used to the drinks just after returning to the country, so I chose iced Americano for you. Mia, who was sitting in the front row, leaned over with an ambiguous look on her face. President Sebastian is really good to Aurora. I sipped the coffee and didn't respond. Nor could I respond. I've known Sebastian for nearly 5 years. Now he is my agent and boss. His kindness to me is obvious to everyone. Tonight is the first public event I've attended since returning to the country. Half a month ago, the movie I starred in won the Best Film at an International Film Festival. As the second lead actress, I won the Best Newcomer award. This movie is a Sino-foreign co-production, and the Chinese director is one of the judges of Peak Night. I had to accept her invitation. Otherwise, I wouldn't have returned to the country so early. By the time my makeup and styling were done, it was almost evening. As the president of a well-known domestic entertainment company, Sebastian was extremely busy. He had to go to the venue first. Before leaving, he repeatedly told me, "Aurora, you don't have to talk to people you don't want to. Don't be afraid. I'm here. Besides, I'll come and pick you up after it's over." But after the event ended, I didn't see him. I could only go look for him. The night was enchanting. 2 or 3 female stars in evening gowns passed by me. Somehow, their conversation reached my ears. "Do you know that President Asher is also here today? Is it President Asher from Changyu Entertainment? He actually came? He's the biggest investor in today's event. He's handsome and rich. But it's a pity. I heard he has a girlfriend. A childhood sweetheart girlfriend. We can't compare." The moment I heard the name, Asher, my mind went buzzing. Could it really be Asher? In the years since I went abroad, I've never inquired about his news. But I still know a little. There's no other reason. He's just too legendary. I heard that he was in a coma for a year. After waking up, he retook the college entrance examination and studied finance. At a young age, he joined the billion-dollar club. What people talk about the most is still his loyalty. Regarding this, I feel both proud and bitter. My mind was in a mess. And those memories that I had deliberately hid and deep in my mind surged up. Those sweet, sad, and bitter memories almost drowned me. So much so that I didn't even realize I had bumped into someone. I'm sorry. Before I could finish speaking, tears had already streamed down my face the moment I saw the person in front of me. It's okay. The indifferent tone, the voice that was both strange and familiar, was like a big hand clenching my throat, making me choke. It's been 6 years. I never thought that my reunion with Asher would be under such circumstances. But it seems that he has already forgotten me. I fled too quickly to see the person behind me clenching his fists tightly, and the reddish tail of his eyes. When Sebastian found me, I had submerged myself in the swimming pool. The air in my lungs was being squeezed out little by little. I slowly closed my eyes, and my consciousness became more and more blurred. On the verge of losing consciousness, I seemed to see a figure swimming towards me quickly. It looked a lot like Asher. But when I woke up, the person I saw was Sebastian. The person who was always calm and composed now looked anxious. Seeing that I was awake, he quickly hugged me into his arms. I suddenly felt extremely wronged. My voice was tinged with sobs. Sebastian. I saw him. Sebastian frowned and immediately realized who I was talking about. Is it Asher? I nodded weakly. But his face changed drastically. And he became stern. So. You tried to commit suicide because of him, right? I closed my eyes and softly retorted. You forgot that I learned diving. But you clearly had the will to die. He hugged me tightly, his chest heaving up and down, as if he was very angry. Are you still the Aurora I know? The Aurora I know would never do such a thing. 2 lines of clear tears rolled down my cheeks. And my throat tightened. I thought I didn't care about him anymore. But when I found out that he really forgot me, I knew what heartache was. That kind of pain seeped into the thinnest strands of my hair. Distinct and vivid. There was nowhere to hide. Sebastian. My heart hurt so much. He hugged me even tighter. And his chest rumbled. Aurora. Look at me. Look at me. Okay? Don't I feel heartache too? I didn't expect that Sebastian's feelings, which he had hidden for 5 years, would be revealed under such circumstances. He gently covered my mouth. And a bitter smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Aurora. If it's a rejection, don't say it. I fell silent and nestled softly in his arms and fell asleep. I thought that when I woke up, everything would be different. Once some words are spoken, many things will change. Just like Sebastian. As long as he didn't confess, I could pretend not to know his feelings. But once it's broken, I can only stay away. If you can't give a response, don't give hope. At this point, I finally admitted that after 6 years, I still can't forget Asher. I also admitted that I chose to go abroad instead of attending a domestic university because I couldn't stand seeing him with Luna. Even giving up dancing was an attempt to say goodbye to my past self. If I couldn't change it and couldn't accept it, I could only be a coward and run away. After falling into the water, I took a good rest for a few days. On the first day of resuming work, Sebastian handed me an invitation letter. Seeing me in a daze, he smiled and tapped my head. Just because the confession failed, can't we be friends again? I looked up at his gentle eyebrows and eyes and said seriously, of course we can. This is an invitation letter from Mingdi Private High School for their school anniversary. They want to invite you, an outstanding alumnus, to attend the school anniversary and perform the dance drama you did at the centenary celebration again. It's up to you whether to go or not. Sebastian had regained his usual calm and poise. It was evident that he had truly let go. I held the gilded invitation letter in my hand and made the decision I would never regret in my life. I'll go. Mingdi. It's where all the story started. Since I promised to attend a school anniversary, I had to reproduce the centenary celebration dance drama. I asked Mia to contact the classmates who performed the dance drama with me back then. To my surprise, without exception, they had all received the school anniversary invitation from our alma mater. My desk mate back then, now an independent designer, even sent a video call. Aurora, you finally decided to come back to the country. She beamed with joy and pushed the male lead behind her in front of the video. Aurora. This is my boyfriend. We're getting married in the second half of the year. You must come. I nodded and said yes. Then asked about the dance drama. My desk mate was mysterious. I'll tell you secretly. All the members of the troupe have come back. Even the one who was in New Zealand and came back a week ago. We've been waiting for you. The lead dancer. We've set up a group. We were still wondering if you'd come back. I have to tell them this good news right away. Oh, by the way, Aurora, we'll be rehearsing at our alma mater in 3 days. You must come. With that, she logged off. After hanging up the video call, I sat on the sofa and remained silent for a long time. All this was unusual. Why did Mingdi's 106th anniversary require us to reproduce the centenary celebration dance drama? What was the purpose? 3 days later. After 6 years. I returned to my alma mater again. In these 6 years. There have been major municipal reforms. High-rise buildings have been built and subways have been constructed in the surrounding areas. But unexpectedly, hadn't my sessioned. The block where Mingdi Private High School is located hasn't changed much. It was still the familiar red bricks and the familiar plane trees. If it weren't for the absence of that person, I would almost have thought I was back in high school. While I was in a daze, my desk mate and the others arrived. Having not seen each other for years, we greeted each other and the atmosphere was warm. During the rehearsal, although we hadn't danced this dance drama for a long time, the moment the music started, our movements were almost the same. Haha. I guess I'm still good at it. The classmate who didn't engage in the dance industry exclaimed. After a few rounds, we were all out of breath and gathered around, chatting about high school. After several turns of the topic, it finally came to me. Speaking of which, you and Asher were so close back then. But you still didn't end up together. What a pity. I smiled slightly. That's all in the past. My desk mate snorted. It's all that transfer student Luna's fault. By the way, Aurora, do you know that Asher and Luna didn't end up together either? Asher actually didn't end up with Luna? He didn't follow the so-called plot? After you went abroad, Asher and Luna had a huge conflict. Somehow, Asher suddenly fell into a coma. Strangely, when Asher was in a coma, Luna went crazy too. At this point, my desk mate pouted. Luna deserved it. She got in between you and Asher back then. She deserves to be locked up in a mental hospital now. Hey Aurora. Why are you crying? I was crying for my boy. The 106th anniversary of Mingdi Private Middle School was held on a grand scale. The most eye-catching part was the dance drama replicated from the centennial anniversary of the school. The seats in the auditorium were fully occupied. And even the corridors were filled with people. After 6 years, standing on this stage again, I was filled with 1,000 emotions. 6 years was almost my entire youth. I carefully executed every movement. And this time, I danced even better than I did 6 years ago. When the curtain call came, the applause lasted for a long time. As I bent down to bow, from a distance, I saw a tall figure stop at the entrance of the theater. He casually leaned against the door, with a faint smile on his lips, and his black eyes looking straight at me. My vision blurred instantly. Before my mind could react, my body had already taken action. I rushed towards him. Asher caught me steadily and held me tightly in his arms. Tears streamed down my face, quickly soaking his shirt. Be good. Don't cry. The arm around my waist tightened, almost making it hard for me to breathe. I traced his eyebrows and eyes, repeating over and over again. Asher. Is it really you? It's me. His eyes were gentle, responding to me again and again, without getting tired. Asher. What exactly happened? Why didn't you tell me? Asher held me and told a thrilling story in a calm tone. He said that he was a time traveler, and this was a novel world. As long as he completed the plot of the male lead Asher, he could return to his own world. At first, following the plot went smoothly for him, until I came along as a variable. During the more than 10 years of getting along with me, he gradually fell in love with me. So much so that he wanted to break away from the plot. Luna is indeed the female lead. But in the end, I'm not the Asher in the book. I don't love her after all. She said I resisted following the plot for you? And that resisting the plot would be punished? Well, she was only half right. Asher said that he did resist following the plot for me. But his fainting and coma were not just due to the plot's punishment. During the year I was in a coma, I was actually negotiating with the consciousness of this novel world. I gave up the chance to return to my original world and chose to stay in this world, just to change the ending of being with Luna. Obviously, hading fulfilled wisely, I won. Without me as the male lead, Luna, as the female lead, naturally had no reason to exist. She couldn't accept it and went crazy. He said it so casually, but I felt that even a single wrong step could have led to a disastrous outcome. Then why didn't you come to me? Why did you pretend not to know me and Sonia? I pounded him hard and burst into tears. You left so resolutely back then. I really thought you didn't want me anymore. Aurora. From beginning to end. I only love you. He gently wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes with his fingertips. And the way he looked at me almost drowned me. Our breaths intertwined. And slowly, devoutly, head in focelt sigh, he covered my lips with his. A soft, lingering kiss. My rationality was completely consumed. I could only sink with him. From beginning to end. This young man has been walking towards me firmly. Even staying in this world for me. Asher will always be Aurora Asher. The end.